Hi. This is going to be different than what I usually do. As you can tell, I'm speaking for the first time in like years. It's been a while since I've used my actual voice for these videos. And I mean, you've clicked on it, you saw the title, you know what I'm going to be talking about, so I'm just going to get right into it. And to start off with, let's go into, start off. I'll go into my first day of freshman year. Well, the day after, the bus ride home, I should say. Um, so we're on the bus. I'm on the bus ride home, talking with some friends, and we all make plans to go and hang out after school. Nothing wrong with that, but one of the things that happens is that the guy, one of the people that wants to hang out, is someone that I've known since the second grade, and throughout the years, like I would say the last 6 years, he started to change and become a lot more mean-spirited isn't the word, but he would definitely pick on me a lot as time went on, especially in the like 8th grade, especially. And it all yeah, 8th grade is when it really started and only continued from there. But I wasn't down to hang out with him, but I didn't say that because at that time in my life I was a massive people pleaser and I was a pushover. So I was not going to really make my opinion out there, at least not in front of his face. At least not in front of his face. I wasn't gonna say it right there. I wish I did, but no. I'm one of those people that just don't want problems or don't want confrontation at all or anything like that. I try to avoid it. But one of my friends, she agrees and thinks that we should all hang out. So it was the four of us hanging out. It was me, him, and two other girls. So we all decide to meet up at her house after school to hang out. And so we did. We all went over to her house. We hung out for a bit. She had a cat. What I remember, that cat did not like anyone. I'm pretty sure I got scratched a few times now that I think about it. Now I'm looking back on it. But yeah, anyway, we were hanging out, just messing around, doing kid, just messing about. Me and him were wrestling and whatnot. But there was something that happened that just kind of really irked me a little bit. And it was the fact that he was seemed to be really chummy with them. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but considering, again, I knew the guy and I knew how he was and just how much of an asshole he was to me, it just seemed to me like it was a little, it's like, oh, it's just being a little too friendly. And I remember specifically he sat on both of their laps, which I thought was crazy because, again, this was literally the first day of them meeting. Like, they did not meet each other before this, and he was already sitting on her laps. I was like, that's crazy work. And I had known them for a few months at this point, so I was pretty familiar with them, right? And he wasn't, and it was just like, that's insane, that's insane. But it was just play. Like, I thought it was just, I didn't really think nothing much of it. It's just, kids, just having fun, just being silly, just being goofy. So when I tried it, I got shoved, and I was like, damn. I was like, damn, why did I get shoved? Like, what did I do? What I do? And I ain't gonna lie, at the time, I took offense to that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I didn't. I got mad, and I just stormed off. I ain't gonna lie. I was pretty upset about that, and I just went straight home. And I remember I got a text from the girl, and she was like, "Well, did you want to come up with us to the Wendy's? Because there was a Wendy's literally up the hill from up the hill by the park that we all went to." So I, reluctantly went back. Still pissed off, by the way. I was still very much mad, but I wanted to hang out with my friends. Well, specifically her and the other girl. Not so much him. Like, no, I didn't want to hang out with him, but they were hanging out with him. So I don't care. So I was like, whatever. I'll just, deal with it. So we all went up and hung out at the Wendy's, bought a few things, bought some food, hung out. Um, then it was time for everyone to go home. So the girl, her friend, well, our friend, but mainly her friend, uh, took him. Her parents showed up, and they lived close together. So offered him a ride, and they drove back. And so it was just me and um the other girl, the Susie. I'm gonna name her Susie. Susie. So it was just me and Susie, and me and Susie were walking back. She could tell that something was off with me. Like, she could tell, so she's like, "Yo, what's wrong? Why don't you just talk about it?" And originally I wasn't going to, but I was like, eventually I was like, I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna tell her. I was like, I kind of I'm paraphrasing because I don't exactly remember the words that were said, but I am paraphrasing here, so you're gonna have to, so bear with me. I was paraphrasing. I was like, well, I'm gonna be honest. I just don't like how buddy buddy and chummy you guys seem to be with him. It's like I get treated one way and he gets treated a certain way, and I just wasn't having it. I was like, it just feels like that you guys seemed more chummy with him than you were me. Like, he gets special treatment or something. Like, something along those lines. Again, I'm paraphrasing because I forgot what I said. And another thing I said was, I'm going to be honest, paraphrasing here, but I was like, I don't think we should hang out with him. Like, I told her that straight up. I was like, I don't think hanging out with him is going to be a good idea. I think we should not do it. And I told her that. And I don't even remember what she said. But, I mean, you know where the story goes. You saw the title. Again, you saw the title. So you know where this story, I at least have an idea of where it ends. So, let's just continue with what happened. So, after that, we all started hanging out more and more. And, honestly, I'll be honest, as time went on, my tolerance became lower and lower. I said earlier that I was a people pleaser, and I was a people pleaser, and I was a pushover, and I was. I look back on it, and I'm starting to get a little heated just even remembering just everything that happened and how I basically just let it kind of, disappointed myself for that. But that happened a long time ago, and I've learned since then. But yeah, I was a pushover pushover and a people pleaser. It was just a lot of things, low self-esteem, and just a lot of stuff. But as time went on, the more I started to feel like I was being treated like shit. Pardon my French, I just really started to feel as though I was being treated differently than everyone else in the group. Like, I was just the butt end of the joke. And at the time, I honestly thought that I was just being a softie. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I thought that it was just me being sensitive and I just didn't have thick skin, and maybe I was just being a baby. But looking back on it, I kind of feel like that, not even kinda. I feel like some of my feelings and some of my things were kind of valid, because some of the way that they were moving when it came to me was honestly kind of different compared to how they were moving with each other. Like, it was just kind of, it was just mad different. I'm not even gonna lie. I kind of felt like I was the butt end of the joke, like the black sheep of the group, essentially, if I'm being, again, completely honest here. And you're gonna find out why here in just a minute because I'm never gonna forget this. But until then, like everything was pretty chill. Like some things was pretty chill. Nothing really extravagant happened. And then I remember this like it was yesterday. Oh my god. This is. I remember one day I came home from school. Same as normal, nothing really different. I think it was either I was already at school or I came home from hanging out or something. I think I was hanging out with somebody. I forget who I was hanging out with. But I was coming back from something. And when I came home, I was greeted with a condom on my door handle filled with lotion and a tampon on my mother's car. Not in my mother's car, like on the windshield. And I just remembered I was just like, that is odd. I didn't really think much of it at the time. My mom, rightfully so, was kind of pissed off because it's like, who the fuck would put a condom on the door and condom on the door and a tampon on the car. She knew exactly who it was. Like, she knew exactly who it was, and I ended up finding out who it was too. And she later told me that they did these things because in all actuality they thought that I was a punk, and I'm gonna be honest, I definitely was. I'm not gonna lie, because anyone, as you will find out, as you will definitely find out. But I remember the next day I had talked about it, and these two dudes, they're stepbrothers by the way, so I'm gonna name them Rick and Daryl. So Rick and Daryl, they're stepbrothers, and I remember I told them this because we all, we went to the same school, so I told them we were standing at the bus stop, and I remember telling them that there was, someone had put a condom on my door and a tampon on my mom's car, and they started laughing about it. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but thinking back on it now, I can say with 100% certainty that it was them. I can say with 100% certainty it was them. And you're probably wondering, well, how is it that you know it was them and not just some random kid that just happened to do it to you? Well, here's where I'm going to talk about it. Because where we live, because every time we got off the bus, where I was and where they were pretty close to each other. They would literally walk right by my house every day they would get off the bus, because our houses, we lived in townhouses. So they would pass my townhouse every time because we would walk down the hill. Like like we would walk down a hill, turn to the left, and then on the right hand side is where my home was, and then to the right side of my house there was a parking lot that led into more townhouses, and 5 doors down is where they lived. They lived literally five houses down from me. They were the closest ones that lived close to me. And so I know for a fact that it was them. And I know some people are still thinking like, well, okay, well that would explain the condom on the door. That wouldn't explain the tampon though, because it's on my mom's car. Now wait for this. I remember this now. Remember that now. This is the next piece. I remember one day, in front of our house, the leasing office was literally right in front of our house. So, and we all hung out there. It was like 7, 8 p.m. It was dark out, but we were right in front of the house. We were all hanging around there. And I remember one day, like my mom's her car is parked right in front of our house. So they knew it was her car because, they've met my mom and they've seen her. I'm pretty sure they've seen her car before. So they know the car was her. The car was hers. And during this night, she had come out of the house to call and tell me to get back in the house because it was, getting late outside and, So they've seen my mom, they know my house, and they know the kind of car she drives. So I know, even without proof, I know for a fact to this day that it was them that did this, that it was them that did that. I know for a fact it was them. And honestly, fuck both of them. pardon my French, but they can screw off. I know it was them. I fucked them. I know it was them. I know it was them straight up. Them straight up. They can deny it. They could deny it, or they could. But I bet if I did ask them, they'd probably be like, "Yeah, it was us." But they don't even have to say it. I already know it was them. I ain't gotta, they ain't gotta convince me because the one other guy, the guy I didn't want to hang out with, I'm gonna give him a name too, just to make it more easy. I'm gonna name him. Uh, I'll name him Sean, cause Sean lived like 10, 15 minutes away, walking wise. Like you had to walk 15 minutes to his house. So it couldn't have been him. It couldn't have been him. And for and then from my best friend, his name, I'm gonna name him Daniel. Daniel was like 5, 7 minutes away, meaning that Rick and Daryl were literally the closest people to me that could have easily did that. Like they were the only people close enough to do that. And me and Daniel were tight. That was my homie. That was like my brother from another mother type shit. Like I've known him since I had moved out to the county when I was in second grade up until that point. So that was my homie right there. So I know he wasn't gonna do some shit like that because I'd never do that shit to him. So I knew for a fact it was Rick and Daryl because I know for a fact it's Rick and Daryl. I just know it was. I know for a fact it was those two. I know it was. I know it was. Anyway, moving on. I know it was those two. And the reason I say that I was a punk, so like I remembered saying earlier how my mom said that they did that because they think I'm a punk, which is true because even knowing that it was them, because I had a suspicion it was them, but them laughing about it after I told them kind of confirmed it. Instead of decking them both in their mouths like anyone else would have done in the situation, I kind of just let it go. I let it go. I didn't say anything. I didn't even bring it back up. I was just like, whatever. I don't care. I don't care because, again, people pleaser and coward. People pleaser, coward, and a coward. And pushover. All in three. All in spades. So then, but eventually it got to a point where I just couldn't hang out with them anymore. I had essentially reached my breaking point. I couldn't do it anymore. I said I had enough, and at, I want to say, sometime in October, I stopped hanging out with them. I think this was October. Sorry, I'm so sorry. September or October of sophomore year. So 2 months into sophomore year, I was just done. So for my whole freshman year, I pretty much dealt with them and all their damn shenanigans. But once it came to sophomore year, I just said, man, I had enough. I couldn't deal with it anymore. I stopped, or at least I started breaking myself off from them. I stopped hanging out with them less. I stopped talking to them less. And when I mean them, I mean like Rick and Daryl and I think I gave him his name as Sean. I think his name, yeah, Sean. And Sean, and just pretty much anyone from that group except Daniel, I stopped hanging around because I just couldn't deal with them anymore. I just felt like shit every time I was with them. I just did not feel like they were my friends. I just felt like shit every time I was with them. So I was just like, I'm done. I just need to get away from you guys. So I would end up spending like like break time, lunchtime, alone, by myself, like with nobody. And then I met this other group. These guys were like juniors, seniors. This girl invited me to hang out in the classroom, and she, that's another story for another day. She ended up inviting me to a party, but long story short, I ended up hanging out around the classroom more and hanging around her and her friends. They're all like freshmen. They're not freshmen. They're like juniors and seniors, older, so older kids. And the contrast between hanging out with them and hanging out with Rick and Daryl and them was like Sean and them was just like night and day. Like I felt actually happy hanging around them. Like, I didn't feel like shit. I didn't feel like I was the butt of the joke of anything. I just felt like I was just, we were just friends having a good time. And then, and I would start distancing myself from them further throughout the rest of that year. But then throughout the next few months, but especially that, like, the rest of that year. And then I remember, like, it was like, I remember we would all sit in the back of the bus, like, all of us, Sean, Rick and Daryl and us, we would all sit in the back of the bus and whatnot, but I stopped sitting in the back and I started sitting up in the front. I started ignoring them as best as I could, honestly, because they would try to talk to me, like, in the hallways and stuff, and I just wasn't having it. Like, I would just do my utmost to avoid them at any given moment. And then COVID hit, and man, COVID. I mean, we all know what happened with COVID, but this was like right before lockdown happened. So I remember me and Daniel and two of our other friends, we all hung out, and that day, ever since that day, me and Daniel never hung out again. We never talked, nothing. And like I said, I already stopped talking to Rick and Daryl and them, and that whole shebang. I stopped talking to them too. And I was just left completely and utterly alone. And I remember there were even times where there was like never any altercations, but there were definitely times where shit almost went down. And like this general just bad blood. And you're probably wondering to yourself, well, if you knew, because I know some of you are probably thinking it, or even saying it out loud, well, if you had issues with them back then, and if all this stuff happened, like especially like with the condom on the door and the tampon, and there's even stuff that I'm not telling you guys because it's so embarrassing that they've done. Like, I don't even want to talk about it or think about it at all because it's so embarrassing and just so I just don't even want to talk about it. There's stuff I'm leaving out. And I'm just telling you the stuff that I am comfortable with telling you with. And like with the tampon, with the condom, the just generally making me feel like a piece of shit, then why did you stay with them? Is what I know a lot of you are probably saying and or thinking. And to be honest, the reason was quite simple. I didn't want to end up alone. I would have rathered been had all that stuff happen, let anything they did go, and I mean anything, condom on the door knob, tampon on the car, being the butt of every joke and just generally just being treated like I just wasn't wanted by my friends or anything like that. Well, not wanted is very, but like just treated like I was the butt of the joke, or that I just wasn't, like, I was the punching bag or the pushover, was because I didn't want to end up alone. And not only that, I had very low self-esteem and very low self-worth. I was a people pleaser, and I also love people. I love people. I loved people. I wanted to be friends with everybody at that time in my life. And again, I was a pushover too. And then on top of that, I thought that I was just being soft, that I was blowing it out of proportion, that I was just being overthinking it, essentially. Like, that's what I thought at the time. I genuinely believed all of this. But that, even then, losing them was not really the part that I had. It was Daniel. Like I said earlier, Daniel was my best friend. That guy right there was my homie. Brother from another mother, ride or die. I would have died for him like I would my own brother. Straight up. That was my closest friend. Me and that dude shared everything together. Me and that dude hung out all the time together. Me and that dude would be talking through our shit and, helping each other. Like, if we had something on our mind, we'd be talking about it type shit. Pardon my French. That was my dude. That was my homie. And then for him, and then to not hear from him, like, at all during the course of COVID was like the straw that broke the camel's back. That was when I realized at that time that it doesn't matter how long you've known somebody. It doesn't matter how long you've known somebody. They could just drop you at the drop of a hat. They can drop you like that with no reason, no explanation, no nothing. And I was just like, wow, people aren't shit. That's what I had thought at the time. I hated people from that point on, from like that summer on up until, from that summer on, not summer, but like from that time on, from February up until like senior year of throughout the rest of my high school experience, I hated people. I would actively avoid people like the plague. I would not even want to get into a social interaction, no social conversation, no social interaction. Like, I wanted nothing to do with people at that point because of my experiences with the friends that I had, all the friends I thought I had that, again, weren't really my friends, and how the one friend that I thought I had, the two friends, because there was another friend too. Her name is, I'm going to name her Ashley. So, damn it, Ashley. Two people I thought that were really my friends, just haven't heard from them in years. I haven't heard from them in a long time. And yeah, I was, I was angry. I was upset. I hated the world. I just I hated myself. I hated myself for even allowing myself to even stay in that situation, even though I felt like shit, but I still allowed myself to be pushed around like that and to be treated like that. I hated myself for it, and I hated the world. I hated people. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I was angry all the time. Even my own family, excuse me, didn't want to deal with me. And I don't even blame them. But, and I remember, now we go into senior year, and this is like the first semester. I remember that, this was school. I was just dropped off at the bus just dropped me off, and I remember I wanted to take a walk outside, and lo and behold, I happened to come across Daryl. I don't know why I went to go talk to him, but I did. But I remember him, talking to me because, again, I really had nothing to say to him at this point. I didn't. But I didn't have it in me to tell him to fuck off. I just was just letting him yap. He had told me that Susie, basically what happened after we all stopped talking, after I had left, and I pretty much, what had happened. Susie didn't talk to him or Sean or anybody. Susie, see, he had ran into Susie one day and last year, and he had tried to talk to her, and she looked at him, according to him, looked at him and said nothing and walked off. And then her friend, I'm going to name her Amber, her friend Amber also didn't talk to Daryl or Sean anymore. And I forgot to mention, but Sean and Amber actually dated at one point, and that's a whole thing, but they weren't together by the time that Daryl talked to me. They weren't together anymore. And then there was another guy. He had told me how I'm gonna name him Bobby. How Bobby also didn't talk to didn't talk to them anymore. And the reason why this is important is because I remember a part of me felt as though I was just being, again, a softie. I was just being soft. I was being, you know, soft, not, I had very thin skin and I was just being, maybe just, being a pussy. But the very fact that Daryl told me to my face that 3 other people stopped talking to not just him, but Sean, tells me that I was right all along, even though I knew it from the beginning, even though I had a feeling I was right, and I knew I was right. When I mean I was right was like as in like we shouldn't hang out with Sean from the very first hangout with me, Susie, Amber, and Sean. But the fact that even 3 other people stopped hanging around you guys, if it was just me, there could have been something of just, maybe he was being soft. But the fact that 3 other people also stopped talking to you guys was everything I needed. Everything I needed, because it was all I needed. I was like, so I wasn't right, so I wasn't wrong. I was right the whole time. I left, and it was like a domino effect. Everyone else just stopped talking to them too because they saw the bullshit. I was right the whole time. And here I was thinking that I was just being a softie. Here I was thinking that I was just being this or that. No, I was right. I was right. And they saw it too. And they stopped hanging out with them. So I was right the whole time. Y'all don't understand how good that made me feel. Yeah, y'all just don't. Y'all don't understand. Because I thought I was crazy. But it turns out I wasn't. I was right. And the fact that the fact that Daryl had the nerve to sit there and to my face and tell me that, something was wrong with them was like, so I thought in my head, I didn't say it to his face, even though I should have. I was like, oh, so even after 2 years, you haven't changed at all. No accountability, no responsibility, no nothing. You think that we were in the wrong for leaving and that they were in the wrong for leaving and not talking to y'all, and y'all had nothing to do with it. It's definitely not y'all shitty behavior and the stuff that y'all said and did that pushed people away. No, it was just the other people. Okay. That's all. I was like, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. I was like, I was like, wow. But, and after that, it was business as usual. As usual. High school senior year went on, and I graduated, and that was it. I never heard from any of them ever again. Nobody. That was a lot. That was a lot, but I would be lying if I said I didn't feel better sharing that and getting that off my chest. Yeah, that was a lot. But yeah, that was yeah. That was a lot. I'm sorry. I know I was kind of yeah, I know I was kind of, but I'm glad I got that off my chest. Um, I hope you guys are having a good day, a great one even. And I'm gonna end the video right there. And I hope that you guys do not make the same mistakes that I made at all. Uh, but yeah, I thought this was something different I wanted to try and do, and yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest, and I feel so much better now. I do have another story time video that I want to do. I do have another one, and it's gonna be about that party that I had mentioned earlier. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. I do appreciate it. Trust me, I really do. And yeah, that's it. Hope you guys have a good one. And thank you again.